Have you ever wondered why New York, once hailed as the ultimate playground for ambition and glamour, feels emptier than ever? Within the first glance, the city dazzles with its towering skyline, neon-lit streets, and the promise of opportunity whispered in every corner. But step beyond the polished facades, past the tourists snapping photos in Times Square, and a different story emerges, one that most guides, media outlets, and glossy magazines never tell you. The reality is stark. The dream city is collapsing quietly, invisibly, in ways that touch the lives of every ordinary resident struggling to stay afloat. The high rents, the relentless cost of living, the stress that gnaws at your mental and emotional well-being, they are not just numbers or statistics. They are the invisible chains binding anyone who dares to call this place home. Every block tells a story of a dream deferred. The iconic brownstones that once housed families for generations now stand empty, transformed into luxury rentals with price tags no local can afford. Corner cafes, dive bars, and small businesses, the backbone of neighborhoods, vanish under the weight of gentrification and corporate greed. And as the city markets itself to tourists and global elites, the people who make New York breathe, who give it its rhythm, are being pushed to the margins, forced to find survival elsewhere. The silent eviction is relentless, almost ritualistic, leaving behind neighborhoods that look thriving on paper but feel hollow in reality. Step into the subway during rush hour, and you don't just see commuters, you witness the city under pressure, a living organism stretched beyond its limits. Delayed trains, broken escalators, overcrowded platforms, chaos normalized to the point where few notice anymore. Streets, once symbols of connectivity and urban vitality, have become arenas of constant tension, where noise, crowds, and congestion collide with frustration, exhaustion, and quiet resignation. And while the media celebrates the spectacle of a city that never sleeps, those who inhabit it experience the weight of a lifestyle designed to impress, not sustain. The illusion continues in every advertisement, every social media post, every portrayal in film and television. New York as the epicenter of possibility, energy, and success. But the truth, hidden in plain sight, is that the city is a complex web of stress, exclusion, and systemic neglect. It's a place where the line between excitement and anxiety blurs, where the cost of survival outweighs the thrill of ambition. The visual narrative, the glossy skyscrapers, the vibrant nightlife, is carefully curated to distract from what lies beneath. The invisible erosion of the very fabric that once made this city a beacon for dreamers. Every unanswered repair request, every rising rent, every new luxury high-rise is a small fracture in the myth. And the most alarming part? The city itself does not acknowledge its collapse. Institutions, policymakers, and even much of the local media act as though the crisis is peripheral, something to be managed rather than confronted. The silence is deafening, the denial systematic. People cling to the fantasy, tourists remain enchanted, and residents keep enduring until the weight becomes undeniable. Yet, amidst this tension, one question lingers like a shadow over Manhattan's skyline. How long can the city maintain this illusion before the collapse becomes impossible to ignore? The story isn't just about New York. It's about the cost of urban myths, about the human consequences hidden behind the glittering lights. And as we start to uncover these cracks, the next layers of truth reveal themselves, each more unsettling than the last. The journey into the unseen, the uncomfortable, and the unavoidable reality of modern urban life begins here. If you've stayed with me this far, it's clear that understanding the real New York isn't just about curiosity, it's about awareness. Take a moment to reflect on the contrast between the city's glamorous image and the daily struggles of those who live here. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever experienced a place that looked perfect from the outside but was collapsing in reality? Your perspective matters, and it adds to the conversation about urban life under pressure. Click that like button if this analysis opened your eyes to a side of New York rarely discussed. Consider subscribing to the channel so you never miss a Deep dive into the invisible cracks of our modern cities, where the myths crumble and human stories emerge. Engaging now ensures you're part of a community that seeks truth beyond the surface, questioning what we've been sold about the urban dream. And remember, the insights here are just the beginning. There's so much more beneath the skyline, in the streets, in the hidden pressures that shape life in the city. Comment your observations, subscribe to follow the journey, and hit the notification bell to stay connected as we explore the next layers of this unfolding reality. Living in New York isn't just about paying rent or catching the subway. It's an ongoing battle with invisible pressures that slowly chip away at your mental, emotional, and physical well-being. From the moment residents wake up to the relentless noise of sirens, car horns, and construction, the city imposes a constant state of alertness. There's no pause, no mental breather. The environment itself is designed to keep you on edge. People navigate streets packed with hurried strangers, endure commutes that are unpredictable and exhausting, and face workdays that often extend beyond standard hours. The city demands more than energy, it demands endurance, a psychological stamina that few truly anticipate before moving here. The cost of this lifestyle isn't measured solely in dollars, though the astronomical rents and skyrocketing prices contribute to a sense of suffocation. It's measured in stress, anxiety, and isolation. Many residents feel trapped in apartments that are too small, neighborhoods that are too expensive, and social circles that are shrinking because long hours and constant work erode the time available to nurture relationships. What was once imagined as freedom and opportunity becomes a cage, reinforced not by bars or walls, but by obligations, expectations, and the silent pressure to keep up. Even simple pleasures, the park, a quiet cafe, a moment to rest, are hard to find. Leisure becomes a luxury. Residents often report the feeling of never truly being at home as the city's constant movement seeps into their personal lives. Families struggle to maintain balance, professionals endure burnout, and newcomers quickly discover that ambition comes at the price of personal peace. The psychological burden compounds over time, creating a population that is resilient on the surface, but fraying at the edges, quietly coping with the cumulative weight of urban existence. What's more, the social fabric of the city shows signs of strain. Communities that once thrived through shared spaces, local businesses, and neighborhood bonds are eroded by gentrification and commercial interests. This breakdown magnifies the sense of isolation and detachment, leaving individuals feeling as though the city is growing around them rather than with them. People begin to question whether the sacrifices, time, mental health, financial stability, are worth the dream they were promised. And, yet most New Yorkers carry on, creating a facade of normalcy, as if enduring this daily grind is the standard for urban life everywhere. The cost isn't always visible, but it's pervasive, shaping decisions, relationships, and futures. The city, in all its grandeur and vibrancy, exacts a toll on those who live within it, a toll that tourists, media, and marketers rarely reveal. As we delve deeper into this hidden reality, it becomes clear that the human cost is inseparable from the city's structural decay. It sets the stage for the next layer of truth: how economic pressures, gentrification, and invisible expulsions are reshaping neighborhoods, forcing residents out, and redefining what it means to survive in New York. The process of leaving New York isn't always loud or dramatic. Often it's silent, almost invisible. Families that have lived in neighborhoods for generations find themselves priced out, unable to keep pace with rents that rise faster than wages, forced to make the painful choice of abandoning their homes. Long-standing communities vanish quietly, replaced by luxury condos and corporate developments that serve a wealthier, transient population. The city, celebrated for its diversity, subtly excludes those who once defined its character, creating an invisible exodus that rarely makes headlines. Every eviction, whether formal or financial, tells the story of a city increasingly unaffordable to the very people who give it life. Local shops, corner stores, and small businesses that catered to residents struggled to survive under escalating rents and the pressures of gentrification, often closing without fanfare. Streets, once vibrant with familiar faces and cultural markers, slowly transform into spaces that feel foreign, polished, and sterile. The human cost of this transformation is immense. Friendships fractured, neighborhood support networks dismantled, and a sense of belonging lost in the wake of economic displacement. What's striking is the normalization of this silent removal. Real estate listings, glossy marketing, and government rhetoric celebrate urban renewal while the population quietly shifts. Neighbors who once walked the same blocks, shared stories, and relied on each other for support are dispersed across distant boroughs, suburbs, or even other states. The rhythm of daily life is altered not through violence or protest, but by the relentless pressure of unaffordable living, a process so gradual that many don't notice, until the familiar streets they called home no longer exist as they once knew them. The psychological toll of these silent evictions is profound. Anxiety, stress, and a constant sense of instability accompany residents who are always on edge, wondering if the next rent hike, property sale, or development project will force them to leave. Children grow up witnessing the displacement of peers and friends, internalizing a sense of impermanence that shapes their perception of the city. Adults carry the heavy burden of survival, constantly calculating, adjusting, and compromising to maintain residence in a place that increasingly feels inhospitable. Meanwhile, the city's image remains meticulously curated. Tourists, newcomers, and outsiders see only the skyline, the entertainment, the luxury, and the bustling streets of Manhattan. They don't see the hidden struggles of the families and workers pushed to the margins, nor the neighborhoods emptied of history and soul. This disconnect between perception and reality is central to the city's silent transformation. As we examine these invisible displacements, the narrative begins to reveal a deeper pattern. A city reshaping itself not by explosive crises, but through incremental, systematic pressure that dictates who can survive and who must leave. This understanding leads directly into the broader view of New York's social collapse, the subtle chaos that permeates daily life, and the unraveling of the urban dream promised to so many. In New York, the collapse isn't sudden or spectacular. It creeps into every corner, seeping quietly into daily life. The city's infrastructure, once a point of pride, now groans under the weight of demand and neglect. Subways break down with alarming regularity, bridges and tunnels show signs of age, and public spaces intended for community interaction have become unsafe or unusable. Streets that were once arteries of human connection now pulse with tension, impatience, and an underlying sense of decay. The collapse is progressive, almost imperceptible to those who are engulfed in it, yet the effects are omnipresent and undeniable to anyone paying attention. Safety has become a luxury. Reports of crime, harassment, and public disorder trickle into the awareness of residents, creating an environment where constant vigilance is a necessity. The normal rhythm of life, walking a child to school, taking a leisurely commute, enjoying a night out, is replaced by calculated routes, timing, and avoidance strategies. Stress is normalized, and anxiety, once an occasional visitor, becomes an almost constant companion. People adapt, not because life is easier, but because endurance becomes essential. What outsiders perceive as a vibrant, dynamic metropolis is, for those who live within it, a landscape of quiet desperation and relentless pressure. Public services, too, mirror this silent collapse. Delays in emergency response, inconsistent sanitation, and overextended social programs compound the daily struggles of residents. The systems designed to support life in a complex city falter, leaving citizens to navigate failures on their own. What's remarkable is how little is admitted publicly. Institutions, from municipal authorities to cultural icons of the city, project a narrative of progress and renewal, while the lived reality tells a story of incremental decline. This denial reinforces the illusion, masking the breadth of deterioration until it reaches a point where adaptation is no longer sustainable. The psychological toll is immense. Individuals constantly negotiate their presence in a city that is simultaneously magnificent and merciless. Burnout, depression, and disillusionment are common. yet largely invisible. Conversations in the workplace, on public transportation, or within homes are peppered with a shared understanding of stress that is rarely articulated but universally felt. The city enforces a new social contract: survive or exit. Those who remain are forced into hyper-resilience, their lives dictated by a pattern of continuous compromise, always responding to problems rather than living proactively. Yet, even amidst this chaos, there is an odd rhythm, a resilience that allows daily life to continue. People adapt, sometimes creatively, sometimes stoically, to the shortcomings around them. But beneath this surface endurance lies a simmering tension, a constant reminder that the systems sustaining life here are fragile. The collapse is not sudden, but it is relentless, and its consequences ripple outward, affecting families, neighborhoods, and the social fabric in ways that are subtle yet profound. As this silent unraveling continues, one question becomes unavoidable. How long can New York maintain the facade of functionality before the cracks widen into fractures that can no longer be ignored? This sets the stage for the next revelation: the stark contrast between the city marketed to the world and the neighborhoods where residents quietly endure a relentless, grinding decay. From above, New York dazzles. Tourists flood Times Square, snapping photos of billboards and neon lights, unaware of the hidden strains beneath. The city's iconic image is meticulously curated, a spectacle designed to captivate, to inspire dreams of opportunity and excitement. But the reality for those who live here is starkly different. Beyond the glittering tourist zones lie neighborhoods grappling with overcrowding, aging infrastructure, and the daily stresses of survival in a city that no longer accommodates ordinary lives with ease. The contrast between perception and reality is not just noticeable, it is jarring, almost cruel in its precision. Walk a few blocks from the landmarks, and the illusion fades. Streets are cracked, sidewalks crowded with hurried commuters, and public transit operates as a daily gamble. Buses are packed, subway cars sweltering, and stations often poorly maintained. Elevators break, escalators stall, and delays ripple across the city's veins, turning every commute into a test of patience and endurance. What visitors see as energy, vitality, and chaos is, for residents, an exhausting backdrop to survival, a relentless pressure that shapes every decision, every moment. Even food and commerce are part of this dual reality. Tourists can dine in trendy restaurants, experience curated cultural spaces, and purchase luxury goods that feed the fantasy of a glamorous city. Meanwhile, locals face skyrocketing rents, dwindling grocery options in their neighborhoods, and small businesses that close as quickly as they appear. The city seems to cater to outsiders while simultaneously eroding the foundations that support its permanent population. Familiar streets, once hubs of community life, are slowly replaced by homogenized spaces designed to appeal to spending power rather than human need. The social implications are equally stark. Residents witness friends and neighbors displaced, forced into distant boroughs or beyond the city altogether, while the areas they once inhabited transform into zones of spectacle. The city that promises opportunity instead imposes limitations on where you can live, what you can afford, and how you navigate your daily life. The invisible hand of economic pressure, urban planning, and gentrification ensures that the dream portrayed to outsiders exists almost entirely separate from the lived reality of those who make the city function. And yet, the city persists in promoting itself as the pinnacle of urban living. Marketing campaigns, social media, and international media coverage perpetuate a narrative of excitement, growth, and endless possibility. Tourists encounter a city seemingly untouched by the challenges that plague its residents, reinforcing the illusion that New York is not only thriving, but a symbol of the American dream itself. The stark divergence between expectation and experience underlines the broader crisis. Metropolis projecting glamour while quietly unraveling beneath the surface. As we move deeper into the human dimension of this urban crisis, the next layer becomes unavoidable. The collective denial that allows this paradox to persist, where both city leaders and the public maintain a narrative of normalcy despite clear evidence of progressive decay. One of the most striking aspects of New York's decline is not what is happening, but what isn't being acknowledged. The city's residents endure a relentless cascade of challenges: overcrowded subways, skyrocketing rents, shuttered local businesses, and neighborhoods stripped of character. Yet the conversation around these crises is muted. Official statements, media coverage, and even casual public discourse often avoid confronting the magnitude of the issues. Nobody admits it, many whisper, while the city continues to operate as if the fractures are minor inconveniences rather than systemic failures. This collective denial is not just a coping mechanism. It has become a structural feature, allowing the illusion of normalcy to persist. The normalization of absurdity seeps into daily routines. Delays, inefficiencies, and safety concerns that would spark outrage in smaller cities are tolerated here as a necessary cost of urban life. Residents adapt, adjusting their schedules, expectations, and even ambitions to accommodate a city that frequently fails to deliver on its promises. Children learn early to navigate chaos as a baseline. Commuters accept packed trains and broken escalators without complaint, and families make sacrifices in housing, transportation, and lifestyle that outsiders rarely perceive. What should be extraordinary becomes routine, and the extraordinary becomes invisible. At the same time, this denial has broader social consequences. Policy responses are often reactive and superficial, addressing symptoms rather than root causes, reinforcing the perception that challenges are isolated rather than systemic. The media, fascinated by spectacle, highlights the glamour, tourism, and iconic landmarks, glossing over the lived realities of ordinary citizens. Residents are caught in a paradox. They are both the audience and the actors in a city that performs for the world while neglecting them. The disconnect fuels frustration, fatigue, and a quiet resentment that grows with each unnoticed failure. The absurdity is compounded by the city's relentless pace. Problems multiply faster than solutions, creating a sense that adaptation is the only viable strategy. Survival becomes tactical, with residents constantly calculating how to maneuver around barriers, from exorbitant rent hikes to service failures, all while maintaining a facade of normalcy. In this context, collective denial functions as a coping mechanism, a societal buffer against the psychological toll of acknowledging the city's collapse. Yet, beneath the surface, tension simmers. The cracks are becoming harder to ignore, and the cumulative weight of stress, displacement, and infrastructural failure hints at a turning point. The more the city pretends nothing is wrong, the more acute the eventual reckoning will be for its residents. This brings us to the next stage of the story: the invisible impact on ordinary people, the psychological, emotional, and social consequences of enduring a city that seems to celebrate its own spectacle while quietly eroding the lives within it. Behind every glossy image of New York lies the quiet suffering of its ordinary residents. Families, workers, and longtime inhabitants navigate a city that is increasingly inhospitable, where the daily grind extends beyond commutes and office hours into a relentless negotiation with survival itself. The pressures of unaffordable housing, overcrowded public transport, and an unyielding pace of life inflict a psychological toll that is rarely acknowledged, yet deeply felt. Anxiety, stress, and exhaustion accumulate as constant companions, shaping decisions, relationships, and even long-term aspirations. People adapt out of necessity, often sacrificing mental health and personal fulfillment simply to maintain a foothold in the city. Neighborhoods, once rich with character and community, are gradually stripped of their social fabric. Small businesses close under the weight of rising rents, cultural hubs disappear, and local institutions struggle to serve populations that are stretched thin. Social support. Networks erode as residents move away, leaving behind isolation masked by the city's ceaseless energy. The loss is intangible yet profound: friendships severed, communal ties weakened, and a pervasive sense of instability that shadows every aspect of life. The city's relentless rhythm turns once familiar spaces into alien environments, forcing residents to constantly adjust, compromise, and suppress the stress that accumulates like a silent, invisible pressure. These conditions affect more than just the individual. They shape the collective consciousness of communities. Children grow up witnessing their parents struggle to balance financial constraints with quality of life, internalizing stress and uncertainty as part of the urban experience. Adults face career compromises, mental strain, and diminished opportunities for leisure, as the city's demands encroach on time and energy that might otherwise nurture personal growth or relationships. Even acts as simple as grocery shopping or commuting become exercises in endurance, with every choice weighted by cost, efficiency, and potential disruption. The invisible impact extends to identity and belonging. Residents feel a dissonance between the city they were promised and the city they inhabit. New York's identity as a land of opportunity clashes with the reality of exclusion, displacement, and constant adaptation. The emotional burden is compounded by a sense of invisibility. The struggles are lived privately, seldom recognized, by the institutions or systems that dictate urban life. The cumulative effect is a cityscape marked by resilience born from necessity, yet shadowed by stress, isolation, and the quiet erosion of quality of life. Despite this, many continue to endure, creating a fragile equilibrium that sustains the urban illusion for outsiders. The endurance is remarkable, but it masks a deeper tension, a simmering undercurrent that signals the broader unraveling of the city's social fabric. The next dimension reveals how infrastructure failures, transport systems, and public services reflect the physical manifestation of this collapse, turning daily routines into persistent reminders of structural and societal fragility. New York's infrastructure, once a symbol of efficiency and modernity, now serves as a stark reminder of urban decline. Airports, hailed as gateways to the world, are emblematic of both the city's ambition and its systemic failures. Delays are no longer occasional, they are routine. Security lines stretch endlessly, luggage systems falter, and terminal congestion creates a sense of chaos that tourists may shrug off, but residents know all too well. For those who rely on air travel for work, family, or daily life, these delays translate into lost opportunities, financial strain, and a continuous state of anxiety. Airports, instead of facilitating movement, often mirror the city's broader dysfunction, turning what should be moments of transition into arenas of frustration and unpredictability. Public transportation tells a similar story. Subway lines, buses, and commuter rails, the veins and arteries of New York, function under the weight of neglect, overuse, and outdated design. Crowding is relentless, schedules are unreliable, and breakdowns are routine. Escalators freeze, trains derail, and platforms overflow, forcing commuters into constant negotiation with their environment. What outsiders perceive as urban vitality is, for residents, a persistent stressor, demanding adaptability and resilience. The city's iconic rhythm becomes a choreography of endurance, with every step and delay requiring calculation, patience, and mental energy that should be reserved for living rather than surviving. Beyond transportation, essential city systems exhibit cracks that are both subtle and profound. Utilities, sanitation, and public services struggle to meet the needs of a dense, diverse population. Residents face inconsistent water pressure, maintenance delays, and service disruptions that compound daily stress. Emergency response is uneven, and bureaucratic inertia slows remedial action, leaving citizens to navigate crises on their own. Each failure, while seemingly minor, accumulates into a pervasive sense of fragility, revealing the city's systemic vulnerability and the human toll of living within it. These infrastructural failures intersect with social pressures, amplifying the city's invisible collapse. Residents must navigate not only the physical limitations of transport and public systems, but also the psychological weight of constant unpredictability. Daily routines, commutes, errands, leisure activities become exercises in planning, risk assessment, and compromise. The city's promise of opportunity is undermined by the reality of its operational fragility, eroding confidence in the institutions meant to support daily life. Tourists and outsiders remain largely shielded from this decay. Their experiences are curated, filtered, through glossy terminals, clean streets, and well-maintained attractions. Residents, however, live in the spaces where failure manifests daily, their routines and plans perpetually disrupted by systems stretched beyond capacity. The physical infrastructure becomes a mirror of social and economic inequality, reflecting who can adapt, who can endure, and who is silently pushed to the margins. As the cracks in transportation and systems grow, they signal not only logistical inefficiency, but a deeper social unraveling. This structural fragility foreshadows the broader unraveling of the urban dream itself, leading us directly to the next dimension, the symbolic collapse of New York as an emblem of the American dream and what it reveals about the failure of urban utopia. New York has long stood as a symbol of ambition, opportunity, and the quintessential American dream, a city where anything seems possible and success is supposedly only a subway ride away. But beneath the towering skyscrapers and gleaming lights lies a haunting reality. The city increasingly functions as a specter of a dream that is no longer attainable for the majority of its residents. The promise of upward mobility clashes with escalating costs, systemic inequities, and the invisible pressures of daily survival. For many, New York is no longer a beacon of opportunity, but a stark reminder of what the urban ideal once promised and now quietly withholds. Walking through once thriving neighborhoods, it becomes evident that the city's image of prosperity is carefully curated. Streets lined with boutique stores, luxury apartments, and trendy cafes are often empty of the families and workers who historically animated them. Those who remain face constant trade-offs, balancing mental and physical health against financial survival, sacrificing personal freedom to maintain a foothold in an increasingly inhospitable urban landscape. The reality is that the city, in its pursuit of global prestige and economic power, has created layers of exclusion that silently marginalize ordinary people. The symbolic failure of New York also highlights the broader dissonance between myth and lived experience. The media and popular culture continue to portray the city as a land of endless possibility, while on the ground, residents grapple with stress, isolation, and the incremental erosion of community life. Each closure of a local business, each displacement, and each system failure chips away at the social fabric, transforming the city from a space of promise to one of quiet despair. The American dream, once embodied in the high-rise skyline and bustling streets, now exists more as a performance for tourists and investors than as a lived reality. This specter extends beyond the physical city into the psychology of its residents. Many internalize a sense of impermanence, uncertainty, and invisibility, constantly negotiating their survival in a place where the myth of opportunity masks systemic neglect. Children grow up witnessing their parents struggle to maintain stability, while adults carry the unspoken weight of a city that promises much but delivers selectively. The city's identity becomes a paradox, both a symbol of success and a testament to structural failure, a space where dreams are marketed broadly but realized rarely. As the city clings to its global image, the human consequences of this disconnect accumulate, revealing the ultimate irony. New York continues to inspire aspiration, even as it systematically undermines the very people it should support. The stage is now set for a final reflection on the lessons embedded in this urban collapse, a warning to anyone who still views the metropolis as the embodiment of limitless possibility. The narrative brings us to the final layer, a critical alert for those who still believe in the utopia of New York, drawing together the social, structural, and human threads of this unraveling story. For decades, New York has been sold as the ultimate stage for ambition, innovation, and opportunity, a city where dreams come alive amid the skyscrapers and neon lights. Yet, the reality for those who live here paints a far more sobering picture. Rising rents, gentrification, failing infrastructure, and relentless social pressures create a city that is increasingly inhospitable to ordinary residents. What was once portrayed as limitless opportunity has transformed into a daily negotiation for survival, where stress, uncertainty, and exclusion shape every aspect of life. The dream is no longer tangible. It exists more as a carefully curated illusion than a lived experience. Those who move here seeking prosperity quickly encounter the hidden costs of urban life. Crowded subways, malfunctioning transport systems, and a constant need for vigilance in neighborhoods once considered safe reveal a city in slow collapse. The glamour of Manhattan, the tourist-friendly streets, and the media narrative of success conceal the quiet deterioration felt by those who cannot simply leave when pressures mount. Every day, residents make compromises, sacrificing mental health, personal time, and financial security, just to maintain a semblance of stability in a metropolis that increasingly prioritizes profit and spectacle over community. This dissonance between appearance and reality serves as a stark warning. New York is no longer just a city. It is a reflection of a broader urban failure, a cautionary tale for anyone who equates city living with opportunity, status, or fulfillment. The cracks in infrastructure, the displacement of longtime residents, and the normalization of stress and chaos reveal a metropolis that cannot sustain its own myth. The city's narrative promises excitement and achievement, but the lived experience for many is endurance, exclusion, and quiet frustration. For viewers watching this unraveling, the implications extend far beyond the 5 boroughs. Other cities, domestically and globally, may follow similar patterns, adopting glossy facades while concealing systemic failures. Understanding this dynamic is crucial, not just to critique New York, but to recognize the human costs embedded in the urban myths we consume and aspire to. The city's failures, seen through the lives of those who endure them, remind us that glamour cannot substitute for stability, and spectacle cannot replace community. If you've watched closely, the lessons are clear. Question: the urban narrative sold to you. Recognize the hidden costs behind the lights and fame, and consider the human impact of what might otherwise seem like progress. Subscribe to the channel if you want to continue uncovering the realities hidden beneath the myth of global cities. Leave a comment sharing your own experiences with urban life. What did you notice that others might overlook? Hit the like button if this opened your eyes to a side of New York rarely discussed, and make sure to watch the next video that appears on your screen, where we continue exploring the unseen realities shaping modern urban life. Congratulations on staying with us until the very end. You've now seen beyond the glossy facades and iconic landmarks of New York, glimpsing the hidden pressures, silent displacements, and systemic failures that shape the lives of ordinary residents. If this analysis has opened your eyes to the realities behind the urban myth, it's time to take action, engage, reflect, and become part of the conversation. Click subscribe to stay connected with the channel, ensuring you never miss another deep dive into the truths that cities often hide from the public eye. Leave a like to show your support for content that challenges the mainstream narratives and shines a light on the human cost of urban life. And in the comments, share your perspective. Have you lived in or visited a city that seemed glamorous from the outside, but felt impossible from within? Your insights are valuable and help build a community of viewers who seek understanding beyond appearances. Finally, don't stop here. Watch the next video that's appearing on your screen to continue exploring the hidden realities of modern cities, infrastructure, and the human consequences of urban collapse. Every view, comment, and like strengthens this conversation and helps reveal the truths that are too often overlooked. Join us, question the myths, and see the cities you thought you knew in an entirely new light.